What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WrestleRant, where every single Tuesday I, Graham G.S. Matthews, review all the pay-per-views that I watch in the WWE Network as well as on the Global Wrestling Network, which is where today's pay-per-view comes from, TNA Final Resolution 2005. So, real quick note here, I did sign up for Honor Club last week, which is the Ring of Honor streaming service, and has all pay-per-views from, I think, 2011 onward. None of the early stuff yet, which I really hope they upload, because that's where the real money is with the Ring of Honor. I won't be reviewing any of those pay-per-views here in WrestleRant anytime soon. I've pretty much made up the entire schedule of shows I will be reviewing here on WrestleRant through the end of 2018. So maybe next year, or I just might write written reviews on them when I have the time. But the service is pretty cool, though. Nonetheless, if you haven't already checked it out, be sure to check out my past reviews of the only other TNA pay-per-views I've done here on WrestleRant recently in recent months. That being Victory Road 2004 and Turning Point 2004, the only 2004 pay-per-views. And then I think TNA went to monthly pay-per-views starting in 2005 with Final Resolution, which is where we are today. So we kick off the show with the 3 Live crew taking on Christopher Daniels, Michael Shane, and Kazarian. And a nice little opener, nothing too great. Really just kind of served its purpose and kind of setting the tone for the rest of the evening. 3 Live crew went over. It was kind of cool to see Daniels and Kazarian on the same side of the ring. An early version of The Addiction from Ring of Honor, which was pretty cool. Elix Skipper taking on Sanjay Dutt in our next matchup. Skipper won with a swinging Uranagi about 10 minutes in. A better match, but still, just kind of there. First 2 matches were solid, but I was really waiting for something good at this point in the show. I didn't really feel like they had much of a story to work with either. But good X Division action, though. I was actually kind of surprised they didn't kick off with other X Division competitors. I mean, they had Kazarian in the opener and Daniels, but they're not really. 3 Live crew were far from X Division competitors. But nonetheless, we had Dustin Rhodes taking on Kid Cash in our next matchup, which was built all around respect. Kid Cash was like a disrespectful figure in the early years of TNA, and he was disrespecting Dustin Rhodes, the son, or otherwise known as Goldust, the son of the then TNA commissioner or COO, whatever his job title was at that point. Dustin Rhodes won with a running bulldog about 10 minutes in. A pretty good match. Kid Cash was in control for a majority of it, and I thought he did a great job of, I don't want to say carrying Dustin, because Goldust is a good worker, but I thought Cash was the real star of this thing, and Dustin did a great job of selling the leg work that Cash was doing throughout, and ultimately it was Rhodes who won the match, so good stuff all around here that told a solid story. After that, a not-so-good match, not as good of a match, between Eric Watts, and Raven. They botched the finish. They had to do it over. Watts won with a choke slam. They seemingly made up afterwards with Raven apologizing for attacking his family or some shit, and they attacked him afterwards anyway. So that was kind of pointless. But yeah, this went way too long. This was also given around 10 minutes, but considering it wasn't all that good, it should have been cut. Yeah, it should have been cut short 5 minutes in, because this really was not that good at all. Speaking of matches that were not good, we had Jeff Hardy versus Scott Hall. I did like the fact that the commentators brought up, that being Don West and Mike Tenay, that it was Jeff Hardy who competed in his first ever WWE match, over a decade earlier, almost about a dozen years earlier, against one Scott Hall, at that point known as Razor Ramon. So that was a cool little note that I completely forgot about. I forgot that was Jeff Hardy's, or one of his first matches in WWE as a jobber. Completely forgot about that. So a good little note. The match itself, that was shit. I mean, Scott Hall was far from being in in-ring shape here. Coming out with the Elvis Presley gimmick, it was garbage. We had Roddy Piper as the special guest referee, though I thought he played that role well, interfering at the end, helping Jeff Hardy pick up the victory. So the result was what it should have been. The match itself was not what you would expect it to be. It was mostly comedy filler. Beyond that, though, it really was not that good. Afterward, though, we did get Abyss returning. I guess it was teased that he was going to WWE or going to sign with them. Obviously didn't happen. And he attacked Jeff Hardy and laid him out with a black hole slam. After that, we had a 3-way elimination match to determine the number 1 contender to the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. This did not need to happen because this sucked. DDP is good. I think he was the first one out, though. Then it came out to Monty Brown and Kevin Nash, and that wasn't good either. This really did not serve much of a purpose. Monty Brown was already over. giving him a quick win over DDP and Kevin Nash was completely pointless, and the match sucked. So this was really unnecessary, I would say. What wasn't unnecessary was the next match of the NWA World Tag Team titles, America's Most Wanted, taking on Team Canada. It was pretty funny to see, as a quick side note, to see James Storm and Bobby Roode involved in the same match, albeit on opposite sides of the ring, on a show where the theme song for this pay-per-view, the theme song was Beer Money's theme song, albeit remixed without the lyrics and stuff. But yeah, if you listen real closely, the theme song for this pay-per-view is like the early versions of what the theme song music would be for the theme song would be for Beer Money a few years down the road, which is pretty funny. Nonetheless, this is a great match. Awesome match between two of the best tag teams in wrestling at that point. America's Most Wanted, Team Canada. AMW rather, America's Most Wanted, were coming off with that awesome series of matches, and that specifically that stellar 6 Sides of Steel cage match with Daniels and Elix Skipper. So they were riding high. They should have won the tag team titles here, and they did. They got plenty of time, almost 20 minutes. Phenomenal stuff. Great final stretch with Johnny Devine attempting to interfere and Scott D'Amore and all this interference. But in the end, it was America's Most Wanted prevailing as the new tag team champions. Great match. So throughout the show, real quick, we had Tracy and Trinity running around all around the arena trying to find Dusty Rhodes' hint, or the clue, I think it was called. Eventually attacking Johnny Fairplay backstage, bringing the hint, and ripped in half anyway, to Dusty Rhodes. So I guess they both won the challenge, or whatever the hell it was supposed to be. Dusty Rhodes then informs them that if they can find a tag team that has never been in TNA before, bring that tag team to him, and they will face off the winning team. Whoever's team wins, they will become the assistant of Dusty Rhodes. So I don't know if that happened on Impact or the next pay-per-view. I guess we'll find out soon when I watch my next TNA pay-per-view to review it. After that, for the X Division Championship, speaking of amazing matches, AJ Styles, defending champion Petey Williams, and Chris Sabin clashing into Ultimate X. This was phenomenal. Considering who was involved, it's hardly a surprise. But wow, this was fucking great. This was really, really great. And we've seen Ultimate X matches done to death by 2018. But a decade and a half ago, this was a lot of fun. This was really, really, really good stuff. And the finish was clever, too. So Petey and Chris Sabin were going back and forth on the tightrope, which is essentially what it is. And for the X Division Championship, the belt fell down. AJ caught it, therefore becoming the X Division Champion, because the rules state that whoever is in possession of that championship by the time the match ends or whatever, whoever is in full possession of the belt when they reach the ground, I think it is, they become the X Division Champion. A lot like the finish that we saw years later in that 3-way ladder match between Dolph Ziggler, Jack Swagger, and Kofi Kingston at TLC 2010. But this match was way better. This was phenomenal. And a great win for AJ Styles. And these X Division title matches, on every pay-per-view I've seen so far involving Petey Williams, have been blow away. And this was no different. So 2 thumbs up to this. Easily the best thing in the entire show. Next to the tag team title match, we get to the main event for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Jeff Jarrett defending against Monty Brown, the newly inducted WWE Hall of Famer Jeff Jarrett. Although I do think he is worthy of the induction, as I've said multiple times over the last week on various outlets, he should have never been the guy in TNA or WCW. In TNA, I can understand it because it was his own company, but still not the best booking decision because the guy really was not that good. This was just a drizzling piece of shit. This was the drizzling shits because some parts of it were decent. It wasn't a terrible match, but it was overbooked to no end with interference, ref bumps, chair shots, guitar shots. So in the end, Jeff Jarrett, I think, low blows Monty Brown, hits him with the chair shot, or hits him with the guitar over the head, breaks it in half. It might have been reversed. Then he hits the stroke finisher 3 times to beat Monty Brown. To protect him, I get it, but that wasn't what the finish should have been. Monty Brown was so over, and he was also a lot better than Jeff Jarrett, too. They killed the guy's momentum. I don't think he ever won the NWA title after that. So any momentum the guy might have had was killed dead with that match. It was terrible. So it got decent time, almost 16 minutes, but a real disappointing finish. Overall, though, I thought this was a good show. A decent undercard, some pooper of matches, nothing too terribly offensive. The main event, just a lot of bad booking decisions, but even that wasn't awful. Wasn't what it could have been, but it wasn't awful. Just the overbooked TNA, LOL TNA finishes just never ceased to amaze me from that era of the company. Though the other two matches preceding that, the tag team title match and the X Division title match, are well worth checking out. Just two phenomenal matches, and for those matches alone, I gotta say this show is worth recommending and worth checking out, if only for those two matches. So definitely seek out AJ Styles, Petey Williams, and Chris Sabin in the Ultimate X match of the X Division Championship, as well as America's Most Wanted and Team Canada for the NWA World Tag Team titles on the Global Wrestling Network. It's a great deal, only about $10 a month for all the old TNA pay-per-views. All the recent television shows, I think they upload them about 10 days after the fact, and some other exclusive content they upload directly to the Global Wrestling Network. So, anyway, guys, thank you for checking out my review of Final Resolution 2005. Next week, I think I'll be talking about, I just got shivers thinking about it, Fastlane 2017. One of the worst pay-per-views I have ever seen. So not looking forward to watching that, but I am looking forward to ranting and reviewing it next week right here on WrestleRant. So until then, guys, be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Until next week, guys, I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Have an awesome rest of your week, and I'll catch your ass down the road.